My name is Kitty Feldman, and I'm going to be presenting on how Sunn hemp can be used as a forage option for cattle. So, what exactly is Sunn hemp? The scientific name is Crotalaria gentiana L, and Sunn hemp originally comes from India. Despite its name, it's not a hemp, it's a legume, and it's traditionally been grown as a green manure crop, which basically means that when you have a soil that gets depleted, you can grow Sunn hemp on top of it and then plow it under to get some of that soil fertility back. And there are different varieties that are used for agricultural production, which I'm going to get into on my next slide. So, Sunn hemp production in the United States. Sunn hemp has not been grown in the continental United States until recently. There's a couple of reasons for that. The first is that there was a big misunderstanding on its toxicity in the scientific community. So the important part is that Sunn hemp comes from the genus Crotalaria, which I have a picture of what it looks like right here. And you may also know some species by the common name rattlepods. So what this genus has is a compound called pyrrolizidine alkaloid, and it causes alkaloid toxicity, so death of the animal or distress symptoms. And since a lot of the species within the Crotalaria genus have this toxicity, that was sort of generally extended to Sunn hemp. And everyone believed that Sunn hemp was toxic, that its seeds were toxic, and it wasn't suitable for livestock production. However, a comprehensive review in 2012 examined anecdotal evidence as well as studies that had been done on Sunn hemp and concluded that Sunn hemp is actually not toxic. It does not contain pyrrolizidine in sufficient quantities to be toxic to livestock unless they were to consume a lot of it. And that most of the scientific literature was due to a misinterpretation of data that had been done on Crotalaria species. And so this did a lot to clear up this misunderstanding that you couldn't use it for livestock production. So the other issue that kind of factored into why is Sunn hemp is traditionally a tropical species. It will only produce seed in those climate settings. And so we could grow Sunn hemp in Hawaii, but we couldn't grow it in the continental United States and get it to reproduce. So the University of Auburn did a lot of work on trying to develop varieties that could. And in 2013, they actually unveiled two seed varieties, which one is the AU Golden Seed and the other is the AU Durban Seed, which I have pictured here. And both of these varieties can grow in subtropical and temperate climates. So this did a lot to give us the ability to produce Sunn hemp for livestock in the United States. But why would producers want to grow Sunn hemp in the first place? The first reason is Sunn hemp is a really good source of protein supplementation. So because it is a legume, it has the nitrogen fixing abilities. It has a high crude protein content, which is between 25 to 30% with a 22 to 28% neutral detergent fiber content and a 22 to 27% acid detergent fiber content. And Sunn hemp primarily grows during the summer months. So in the Midwest, its peak growing season is between mid-June to mid-July. And in the South, you can start to push it back a little bit from mid-July into September. But during those months, Sunn hemp will reach its peak nutritive values. And it can be grown in combination with some of our forages that tend to have lower nutritive values during the summer months. And sometimes those forages will dip below the minimum requirements for our cattle herds. And so Sunn hemp is used in conjunction with those forages. It can help compensate and make sure that we are meeting the requirements for our animals. And then the second reason is in order to meet those requirements and have enough for supplementation, it needs to grow. And Sunn hemp is known for having rapid biomass accumulation. So it actually will reach its mature height in 60 days, which in this picture over here, you can see is over the head of this man. It will actually reach peak heights of up to 7 feet tall. But in order to maximize nutritive value, sun hemp should be grazed or cut around 45 days. And then the third thing that makes sun hemp really promising for producers is it has drought resistance. So sun hemp is actually a pretty hardy forage. It can grow in a variety of different soil conditions. And one of the things I read on it was it tends to be very forgiving for having a range of soil pHs. So with that, it also will grow on not a lot of rainfall. And a study that was conducted in Wyoming, which Wyoming as a state tends to have some percentage of drought throughout the year. So this study was trying to see if it could be a sustainable option for producers. But what they did is they grew sun hemp using an irrigation system. And then they also had sun hemp that just had to grow on the natural rainfall provided. And so what they found was that the sun hemp that had to grow in the natural rainfall was still able to reach comparable growth rates as well as maximal biomass accumulation values as the irrigated sun hemp. And so this study was very excited about that because it showed that sun hemp could be another option for Wyoming producers that are struggling with these drought conditions and trying to feed their cattle herds. So the last thing that I looked on for sun hemp was to see if there was any literature on the effects of rumen on rumen fermentations. And really, there have only been minimal studies done so far. So both of these studies were conducted in Thailand, and they more looked at sun hemp as a supplementation to rice straw. And it was only using tropical varieties, so not the varieties that we use in the United States. However, one study observed that there were no detrimental effects on dry matter intake, average daily gain, or volatile fatty acid concentrations of up to 75% inclusion of the ration. And then this other study, which I included the table over here on the right, which looked at rumen pH as well as volatile fatty acid concentrations and total counts of microbes, suggested that sun hemp may increase the dry matter, organic matter, and crude protein digestibilities, as well as propanoate levels within the rumen. But despite this, more research does need to be conducted just to confirm these studies, but also kind of getting into the next part, which is the future of sun hemp. Research should be done into looking at how microbial populations are impacted using the other varieties, such as the subtropical and the temperate varieties that we have here in the United States, and just looking into if it has any negative or positive impacts on those microbial populations. That being said, a lot of the literature that's come out is very recent, between 2018 and 2021, whereas most of the studies that I looked at, but everything has been pretty positive. And so because of this, I'm expecting to see an increased use in production systems as a forage for cattle. And I also, something that I found interesting, which is kind of the reason I looked into sun hemp in the first place, was producers in my area have started to use it a lot. There's this one producer in Kentucky who uses it exclusively to feed and finish their cattle. It's the Hemp Cattle Company in Winchester, Kentucky. And they've talked about having a lean meat product, but it has a unique taste. So I'd be interested to see a positive or negative impact on carcass quality through studies looking at sun hemp. But overall, I think it's an interesting forage option, and I definitely think that more producers are probably going to use it. I don't know about exclusively foraging, but at least in supplementation. So that's all I have. Thank you for listening. And these are my references and picture credit slides, but that's it.